field trip up to Sholin Farms, and we also do a project with the local community harvest project, which last year grew over 50,000 pounds of produce for the Worcester County Food Bank. So we have a number of agricultural-related things. I feel in some ways being in a city we're at a disadvantage because there isn't really much agriculture, as I would call it, in the city itself, but there are a number of community gardens, and we're also working on a herb garden for our culinary department, and we have in the works the possibility of setting up a hydroponics operation for the culinary department. So there's a lot of fun hands-on projects that we can try to get involved in. Hopefully, it's a lot of work, and I mean the kids have to do extra work, and some of the kids that I've tried to get involved are just lazy and don't, they'd be good for this, but they're just lazy, So having a bunch of motivated kids. I will say that I sent an email to Andy and asked, what was her secret to success, and I actually read her response to the students at our first meeting, and it was essentially, they managed this themselves. She was there to help guide them and provide them with opportunities, but it was up to them to really do it, and I really feel that jumped off our first meeting. They already assigned each other to start studying various sections of the curriculum, and hopefully we're off to a good start.
Apropos to the assigning themselves parts of the curriculum, I guess not this year, but the year before, our kids started having different members of the team do presentations at each of their meetings. So they would pick one of the topics and pick an aspect of that topic, and that team member would have to do a little presentation. Some of them would do handouts, some of them would do a PowerPoint, some of them would just talk and just have their pile of stuff. And then they'd write a little quiz. So they started getting very competitive actually with each other in a very friendly and supportive way, but still who could make the better quiz, who could make people laugh more, what mnemonics and tricks they had for remembering stuff, and they really had fun with it, and it was just great to see what good teachers they became as a result of having to do this. And it was self-imposed having to do it. But just, can you actually teach this material to somebody else? Because you really need to know it in order to do that, which is what they discovered. That was kind of cool. But that also that was their idea. It was a good one.
A great idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Russ, can I ask you an unrelated question?
Sure.
I mean, it's vaguely related. Were you at the hydroponics?
It doesn't involve my age or my weight, does it?
No. Were you at the hydroponics workshop at DC?
Yes, I was, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well, actually, Dr. Burnett invited me because I had been involved in the urban ecology project. And because of my background in horticulture, he had invited me, and we did during the summer, I helped write some of the curriculum for that. And so I don't know if I was actually at what you're talking about for the teachers last year? Or
yeah.
No, Dimitri went to the one last year, and the culinary arts teacher went, but I didn't go. Okay,
I think that's who I remember as the culinary arts teacher. All right, sorry to interrupt. It just everything you were saying rang a bell.
What a great example of the kind of networking that we really hope Envirothon encourages among coaches who are, I think Envirothon coaches, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think we have a group of some of the most creative educators in Massachusetts, or in the environmental area. So the more that we can talk with each other and share ideas, the even more creative we can get, I think. That's what
in that regards, I have suggested to Will, and I'm hoping that we'll have a room set aside adjacent to the areas that we're using next in the winter workshop, that would be kind of a teacher drop-in center, someplace where a teacher can go and drop off a backpack or correct papers, but hopefully to sit down and chit-chat with other coaches.
That sounds cool.
So, Martha, did you have anything to add on getting students involved?
Well, I think the biggest thing for my team was that the students recruited each other. You know, I had a couple of kids who got it started, and then they would invite friends to come. The first year I did it, we were having a lot of trouble filling our 5-member team, and so the couple of kids that were going, I said, can you think of anybody else who might be willing to come? And Dan said, well, Jared's in Boy Scouts with me, and he might enjoy this. And so Jared came, and then last year Jared was one of our core group, having just been recruited at the last minute the year before. And now this year, I'm hoping that they will recruit some more kids to join them as well. So I think it works much better if the students, if you've got a few students who then reach out to their friends and try and get them involved.
How big is the school, Martha?
Say that again?
How many students in your school?
We have about 1,300 students.
Mm-hmm. So it's not too small. I mean, it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's a big school, but, you know, everybody is busy with all sorts of things.
Right.
So,
right.
you
know, I know.
Recruiting kids to do any particular activity, there's always competition.
Right.
So, but, you know, I think I advertise on the morning announcements, and I, you know, get the science teachers to see if they can remind their students that this exists. And I had 2 girls join us who kind of came through that route last year. And I guess one thing that worked was unfortunate. They didn't come to any of the workshops. They didn't come with us to Amherst. And then when we divided up how to divide the team, the 2 of them ended up being the only 2 doing the wildlife. And so they actually worked pretty hard preparing for that wildlife section, and they were reading the big books of, you know, wildlife in Massachusetts, and they were learning the different frogs and stuff like that. And then they came back from the competition and said, we didn't realize we had to know regulations and rules and plants and poison ivy and all these other things. They'd been studying only mammals and amphibians and birds and things like that. And it turned out that that wildlife was sort of the most inclusive of all the tests. And I had my 2 beginner freshmen on that one test. So that, I think, planning how you divide your students is an important key to the success of the program. So I promised them they won't be stuck on that test by themselves this year.
But they did come back.
Well, I hope so.
Again?
You know, they seem to think they're coming back, but you know, I will believe it when it really comes true at the end of the year. One thing I did to try and get my kids excited at the beginning of the year, I figured this farming and agriculture, it's going to be winter very soon, and the farms are going to be pretty boring by then. So I actually contacted the CSA that I'm a member of and got permission to take my kids out on a field trip to the farm and help out on the farm early in September. And they had a lot of fun doing that. We went on a Saturday and spent about 4 hours helping. Well, we got a tour of the farm. We helped weed. One girl helped harvest some potatoes. And then we sat around and had lunch and talked with the farmer and came up with ideas of what they might want to do back at our school to kind of do their community service project. So we got 4 kids out there very excited right off the bat.
That's awesome.
We'll see if it follows through. That's the only trouble we always end up with, is that follow-through part.
We just have a couple minutes left by my watch. Are there any questions from the new prospective coaches?
Did we scare them off?
I hope not.
Maybe they're on mute and they forgot that you have to push #6 to get unmuted.
Oh, that was well done, Martha.
Yeah.
I think we only have.
What time is the conference on October 25th?
The workshop.
Usually the registration, we start between 9 and 9:15 for the actual program. First workshop is like 9:45 or so. Doing that from memory. But we do that because it's a great distance for a lot of people coming from the eastern part of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And it lasts till what time?
2:30 or 3.
2:30 or 3, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
We really just had two more questions, and we actually covered quite a bit of it.
Yeah, we did.
So I guess I can just go over those last two and see if anyone had anything to add. But the last two questions we had were kind of, how does your team prepare throughout the year, and what role do you play? And I think Andy, Russ, and Martha all kind of touched on that. That they each have kind of a different take, and felt that the students running themselves might be the best bet. And then also, are there any curriculum connections? I know Russ mentioned that it's part of his curriculum. Maybe not so with Martha and Andy, but those were the last two questions. If you guys had anything else to add to those two topics or areas, or obviously if any of the other new potential coaches had any other questions.
I do actually have my AP Bio students, after they take the AP exam, the project that they work on at the end of the year is to make a collection of leaves from the trees in our neighborhood and learn to identify them. And so the forestry connects to that at least somewhat, though, again, I was a little surprised how much you needed to know the bark and the acorns and the twigs and not so much the leaves. So, this coming year we'll concentrate on that as well as just the leaf structure of the trees, because in the winter when you're studying, that's what you have to look at. And we're learning every year we go. We discover, how to prepare better next year.
And one thing I'll add is that in Worcester, we actually have 5 high schools, and there's a couple others that participate in the Envirothon. So I've tried to share resources when possible with the other schools, in particular Doherty High School. I had the advantage where our school is located in the park, and I had some connections. I was able to get a guy to dig us a trench to check the soil cross-section. And before he filled it in, I let them know that was there and where it was, and come in before it either caves in or fills up with water. So they were able to get up and do that. And I also put them in touch with some of the presenters from the USDA